Level 1 is where everyone starts. You're 22, maybe 23, and you didn't dream about this as a kid. Nobody dreams about this. You wanted to build things. You taught yourself a little code, or you came out of a boot camp, or you applied to 40 engineering jobs, and the only callback said the word quality in the title. You took it. You tell people you're in tech now. You are. Barely. Your first week, they hand you a login, a staging environment, and a spreadsheet of 300 test cases. Your job is to click. You click through the sign-up flow. You click through it again with a different browser. You click through it on a phone, on a tablet, with the Wi-Fi throttled, with a password that has an emoji in it, with a name that's 400 characters long. You're not testing whether it works. Anyone can confirm it works. You're paid to find the one path where it doesn't. You write your first bug report, and a developer closes it in 9 minutes, cannot reproduce. You feel it in your stomach. You learn something they don't teach you anywhere. A bug isn't real until someone else can see it too. So you do it again. You record the screen. You write the steps so precisely a stranger could follow them blind. Environment, build number, expected result, actual result, every tap. You attach the video. You set it back to open. This time, it doesn't come back. A senior tester 3 desks over tells you, without looking up, a bug isn't real until someone else can reproduce it. Your job is to make it impossible to argue with. That is the closest thing to praise you'll get for a year. You're making $48,000, maybe $55,000 if you're in a good city. You live with roommates. Your friends who learn to code are making double, and they remind you of it. You run regression suites that take all day. You do smoke tests at 8 a.m. so the developers can deploy by noon. You learn Jira, TestRail, Postman. You learn severity versus priority, and you learn that the loudest person in the room decides both. You learn to say, it's not working, in a way that doesn't make a developer defensive because a defensive developer closes your ticket. Then it happens. A release goes out. 2 days later, a customer emails support. The checkout button charges twice. It was in your test cases. It was on a path you didn't walk because you were tired and it was Friday. You sit with that. Nobody fires you. Your lead just says, now you understand the job. You are the last thing between the code and the person who trusts it. You write that down. You're moving to level 2. Level 2 is when you stop clicking and start writing the thing that clicks for you. You're tired. You've run the same regression suite 200 times and your brain has turned to static. So you learn to code for real this time. Python or JavaScript or Java, whatever your team speaks. You learn Selenium, then Playwright, then Cypress. You learn GitHub, and you break the main branch on your second day and want to disappear. You write your first automated test and it passes, and you feel like a god. Then you run it the next morning and it fails for no reason. You run it again. It passes. This is a flaky test, and it will haunt you for the rest of your career. You learn the page object model so your tests don't collapse every time a developer renames a button. You learn to wait for elements properly instead of sleeping for 5 seconds and praying. You learn that a test that passes is worthless if you don't know why it passes. A senior engineer reviews your code and leaves a comment that stings. Anyone can write a test that's green. The hard part is writing one that fails for the right reason and only that reason. You rewrite it. You start thinking about your test the way a developer thinks about code, because that's what they are now. You're making $75,000 to $95,000. You can move out. You wire your tests into the CI pipeline, Jenkins, then GitHub Actions, so they run on every single commit, automatically in the middle of the night before anyone is awake. Now when a developer breaks the login flow at 2 a.m., a red X appears next to their name before the sun comes up. You've made yourself faster than you ever were with a mouse. You test APIs directly now, hitting endpoints with payloads, checking status codes and response times and the shape of the data. You're catching things 3 layers below the screen, but you're also drowning in maintenance. 300 automated tests, and 40 of them are flaky. And every morning you're triaging which failures are real and which are noise. A green build means nothing if half the team has learned to ignore the red ones. You start deleting bad tests instead of writing new ones. And you understand that a smaller suite you trust beats a huge one you don't. You're thinking about systems now, not scripts. You're moving to level 3. Level 3 is when you stop owning tests and start owning quality. You're 28, maybe 30. You've got 5, 6 years in. You don't get handed a test plan anymore. You write it for a whole product before a line of code exists. A developer describes a feature in a planning meeting, and you're already seeing the failure modes: the empty state, the race condition, the user who clicks submit twice, the time zone that breaks at midnight in Auckland. You build frameworks from scratch now, not tests, the thing other people write tests in. You make decisions that a dozen engineers will live inside for years, so you make them carefully. You do performance testing with K6 and JMeter, simulating 10,000 users hitting an endpoint at once to find the exact load where the database falls over. You find it at 8,400 concurrent users. You tell the team. They fix it before a single customer ever feels it. Nobody outside the room will ever know you prevented an outage. That's the job. The best work you do is invisible by definition. You're making $115,000 to $145,000. You mentor the juniors now, the manual testers you used to be. You review their bug reports, and you teach them to make them impossible to argue with. Then a bug gets through, a real one. It ships to production, and it costs the company actual money, and there's a postmortem, and the whole engineering org is in the room. The instinct is to find the developer who wrote the line. You watch a junior start to point, and you remember what your lead told you years ago, and you say it out loud. We don't find the person who threw the ball. We find the hole in the net. The hole is mine. The net was my design. The room goes quiet. You spend the next week closing the gap, so this exact failure can never happen again. That is what senior means. Not that you don't miss things, that when you miss them, you own the system that let it through. You're moving to level 4. Level 4 is when you stop testing and start deciding whether anything ships at all. You're the lead now, or the test architect, sitting across from product managers and engineering managers, and you hold a thing they're afraid of: the authority to say not yet. You don't measure your work in bugs anymore. You measure it in escape rate, how many defects reach customers, and coverage, and mean time to recovery, and the numbers go in front of executives with your name attached. You design the quality gates that every team's code has to pass before release. You decide what done means for an entire organization, and people resent you for it because your definition of done is slower than theirs. This is where it stops being technical and starts being political. A release date is set. Marketing has announced it. The PM wants to ship. And you're looking at a test report that says the payment service fails one time in every 200 under load, and 1 in 200 across a million transactions is a number that will end up in a news headline. Everyone in the room wants you to say, "It's fine." You've got 30 seconds and your whole reputation to decide. You say no. You block the release. You're not popular for a week. Then engineering finds the bug, and it was exactly where you said, and nobody thanks you because the disaster that didn't happen doesn't have a name. A mentor of yours, a director 2 levels up, tells you the thing you'll repeat for the rest of your career. Quality isn't the thing you add at the end. It's the thing you defend when everyone in the building wants you to skip it. You're making $155,000 to $190,000 now. You're hiring. You're building a team. You're teaching people not just to find bugs, but to fight for the right to fix them. You sit in the meetings where the deadline pressure is unbearable, and you become the calm one, the immovable one, the one who has been right enough times that no carries weight. You're moving to level 5. Level 5 isn't a title someone hands you in a ceremony. You're a director now, or a principal, or a head of quality, and one day you realize you haven't written a test in 2 years, and the company is safer than it's ever been because you stopped being a tester and became the reason hundreds of other people test well. You've been doing this for 20 years. You don't own a product, you own a culture. You build the systems that make quality the path of least resistance, so that doing the right thing is easier than cutting the corner. You shift testing so far left that bugs are caught in the design review before anyone writes the code in a conversation you structured. The cheapest bug to fix is the one that never gets built. You've made that the default across an entire engineering org of 500 people. You're the one they call when it's catastrophic. A defect ships, a real one, the kind with a name and a dollar figure and a customer trust problem, and the all hands goes quiet and everyone looks at you. You don't panic. You've been the last line of defense since you were 22 and clicking through a sign-up flow on a throttled connection. You lead the response. You find the hole in the net. You stand up in front of the whole company and you take it, because taking it is what command looks like at this level. Then you build the thing that makes it impossible twice. You're making $220,000, $300,000, more with equity, but it stopped being about the money around level 3. The engineers you trained as juniors are leads now at other companies, blocking their own releases, owning their own nets, saying the whole is mine, to their own rooms. That's the work that outlives you. A release goes out on a Friday afternoon, the kind that used to make you sick to your stomach a lifetime ago. You watch the dashboards. The graphs hold flat and green. No spike, no errors, no double charges, no headline. A junior on your team is watching the same screen with white knuckles, the way you used to. You tell her it's going to be fine. She doesn't believe you yet. She will, in about 20 years. You think about the first bug you ever shipped, the checkout button that charged twice. On the Friday, you were too tired to walk the path. You think about your leads saying you were the last thing between the code and the person who trusts it. You've been that for 2 decades now, for millions of people who will never know your name, never know there was a button that should have charged them twice and didn't, because somewhere upstream, someone like you refused to let it through. These are the 5 levels of a QA engineer: manual tester, automation engineer, senior, lead, principal. Each level you click less and decide more. Each level the bug you catch is worth more, and the one you miss costs more. Each level, fewer people see the work, and more people depend on it. Welcome to the 5 levels. And the next time, a thing just works. Quietly, every time, the way it's supposed to. Know that someone fought to make it that way. They earned it.